All right, welcome back. Another episode of Podding with PT. I'm Patrick.
I'm Tyler. Today we got a special guest, Dr. Jair Davis, in the house, coming from Seton Hall / Sacred Heart.
What's up, everyone?
Living in Phoenix, working as a first-year PT graduate. Go ahead, Jair. Take us off. What you got?
So just give us a quick intro. Where you're from, where you went to school at, and then currently what's going on with you.
So, as these fine gentlemen have told me, I'm Dr. Jair. I moved to Phoenix about 7 months ago after I finished my DPT school at Sacred Heart with these two being my classmates. Right now, I'm actually in between jobs. I have just left outpatient and I'm actually moving into inpatient and acute care. So that's where I'm at right now. In my free time, I like to play and coach volleyball. Currently coaching at a club team out here, which has been pretty fun. So keeps me busy, on top of my toes and everything.
Yes. Sounds like you're going through a big transitional point from what you say outpatient to acute care. How you feel about that?
So it's funny. A lot of people in my class thought that I was going to be in acute care starting off my career. I was like, no, I want to be outpatient, but I think the outpatient landscape, especially with a lot of the companies, just being very numbers driven, not really for patients. That wasn't my cup of tea. So I had to change that real quick before I get burnt out.
Pretty big target to talk about is burnout.
Yeah.
So what would you say was the key to your all right, this is my final straw? Because I feel like at some point you probably said maybe I'll stick it out for a little bit. And then what was that final straw where you were yeah, this is right now sending me over the edge?
I think it's pretty much the lack of talking to your therapist and seeing hey, are you good? Do you need a few minutes break? Because I just kept getting booked double, triple bookings, whatever. And it got to a point where I was I'm not giving the patients the care they deserve. They're paying however much money they are to be here, and they're with an aide 30 to 45 minutes where they paid to see me. I'm the ones that they're here to see, and they're not seeing me enough. So I'm it's either I just cave in and just go whatever, which means that patients aren't getting their best care, or I just find something that's better suited for me. Because at the end of the day, we paid all this money to go to school. I'd rather be happy with the career I have than just go through the motions.
Yeah. Why acute care? Why did you not try to find another outpatient clinic maybe to fill your sports desires? Because I know you wanted to do sports PT. So why would you pick acute care instead of another outpatient?
One, definitely the hours. How an outpatient, you have those 2 late nights or 3 late nights that you have to do. With me coaching and all stuff, because that's also another source of income for me. I needed better hours, and my current job wasn't really willing to negotiate that with me. And after interviewing with other places, they was no, you have to do 2, 3 late nights. I was just alrighty then. But then also productivity. There's a major difference in productivity in acute care versus outpatient, whereas in outpatient, you're expected to see people every 30 minutes, not really have any gaps in your schedule. Whereas in acute care, you know that people are medically unstable and all that stuff. So you're going to have more cancellations, all that stuff. So the productivity is a little bit more lax and a lot easier to obtain, so that you're not getting chewed out by your supervisors or your bosses.
I felt like that was tough for me in acute care because 1, I was just slow, but 2, the amount of cancels I had because they were so medically unstable, I felt for me would have made that productivity harder.
Yeah,
I'm going to these rooms and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but either A, you just don't want to see me, or 2, you just medically can't see me. So I feel like that made more of a stress on me when I was all right, well, I've been to 8 rooms and I've only treated 4 people, so I wasted kind of time. 10 minutes each time trying to get them to do stuff.
Yeah, that's why the productivities are around 60, 70% instead of an outpatient. You're supposed to have your schedule 90% filled.
Yeah.
So it's give and take with it.
Did you have a acute rotation for your internship?
Yeah, my acute care rotation was in Barnes Jewish Hospital in St. Louis. I was primarily in the cardiothoracic ICU, which, not gonna lie, that was kind of scary at times, just seeing all these people with all these lines and tubes just coming out of them, and some of them are pretty much near death, quite frankly. And we're expected to get them out of bed, doing exercises, getting them walking and stuff like that. But I think that's what kind of drew me into acute care more, was just like the different challenges of like navigating all that stuff. And you'll be surprised, like I kind of got connected with some of my patients, even though I've seen them for like 3 or 4 days while I was in there. Like you still make connection with them, which I think was like pretty significant, because you didn't think like you see them that long of a period. Like they were like, I really liked you as a therapist or whatever.
Yeah, there's some inspiring stories in the hospital, but I feel like there are some times that like emotionally enough for me. I don't know if I can continue seeing people on lines and tubes every day. It was like that took a lot out of me to be like, damn, I'm complaining about coming into work today, and this person's literally fighting for their life and expecting to see me for 20 minutes, and that's like the bright spot of their day. So I'm like, damn, that's a heavy emotional challenge. I feel like. Did you ever have that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had that more in outpatient, like in my last job, like just casually talking to people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, in the last hour or two, my family members died." I'm just like, "Excuse me, like what? Like why are you here right now? Like, do you just need to like talk? Like we can forget everything else. Do you need someone to talk to right now?"
Right.
Like,
Yeah. It's a lot of
yeah.
building rapport, no matter
Yeah.
what setting, where you're at. Like life happens, and
Mhm.
just taking that into consideration. But I feel like I want to get deep into your history as well.
Yeah, you got an interesting background, I feel like. So go ahead and share where did you grow up?
Where I grew up, so originally I was born in Newark, New Jersey. Lived there for about 9, 10 years, and then moved to Monroe Township in Middlesex County, New Jersey. Very suburban area, predominantly white. I think I was like the only Black kid in 90% of my classes. So I was in like high school. Um, Grew up playing soccer, basketball, was always a sports kid. Never really got injured or anything like that until like my 8th grade year, where I fractured my ankle playing soccer. Doc told me like, oh, it's good to play. And I knew from my own personal experiences, I was like, something is wrong with me. Like I should have been seeing someone. Like I should have got a second opinion, all that stuff. And as I started getting older and started seeing other people like get like major injuries like ACL, dislocations, and seeing them go through physical therapy, I was like, this is what I should have had, so I wouldn't have like recurrent ankle issues and all that stuff, and other injuries to my body. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna go through either the PT or the AT route. And funny enough, there's one day I was studying for an anatomy exam in my senior year, and a physical therapist came up to me. He was like, "Why are you studying anatomy for?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm getting ready to go into college. I'm going to study to be a PT or an AT. I don't know which one I want to do yet." He's like, "Go PT. You'll like your life a lot more." So I was like, "Sure, I'll go that route." And as I started doing like a lot of shadowing and stuff like that, seeing just how the day in the life of a PT is, I was like, "This is the career path for me."
Did you shadow acute care, or did you shadow more outpatient?
I shadow mostly outpatient. I did a sniff for one day, and that's when I realized I didn't want to be in a sniff.
A skilled nursing facility, if the
Yeah.
if acronym was not common.
And so this was all in high school.
High school and college.
And so when did you meet? So was it a physical therapist that talked to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that relationship?
Oh, it was just like a very casual, like, and I was like referenced for like a score game, like a basketball game, and we've seen each other like quite a few times. So he just like kept in touch with me, be like, "Hey, how's things are going with like you going to colleges and all that stuff." And he was just like very friendly and all that stuff, which also like wanted me to be a physical therapist, because like we're known as like being like very sociable, outgoing, friendly people. Like if you haven't seen someone in so long, you're willing to connect with them for like long periods of time. So I was like, that's the type of person I wanted to be. Just that type of rapport with people, no matter who it is.
And then so what led you to? So you went to Seton Hall for undergrad.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of led into that decision, and like the steps that led to going to Sacred Heart for PT school?
So Seton Hall, that was purely a financial decision. I originally wanted to go to a school in Maryland, a small private school called Mount St. Mary's. More so to try and play basketball there, since they were like a low D1 school. I thought I could walk on there. But when Seton Hall offered me a lot more money than them, my mom was like, you probably should take that, considering this amount of student loans you're probably gonna have to take out if you go to grad school.
Yep.
So I did all my undergrad at Seton Hall. And by the time I was a junior, senior, that's when I started applying to PT schools. And originally I wanted to go to Creighton in Nebraska, Creighton University in Nebraska, just for a huge culture shock, like different environment and all that stuff, to get away from like the East Coast. But I also applied to Sacred Heart because I was like, oh, that's closer. That could be like a school, like if I get into, like I'm always like near my family in case something were to arise, like where I need to drive back home. And of course, I also applied to Seton Hall because they also had a program there. It was just a lot harder to get into Seton Hall's program, since most of the people you have to be pre-accepted into a 3+3 program. So like if you're doing like get pre-accepted to that, your first 3 years of undergrad or undergrad years, and your last 3 years of graduate school, including your senior year of undergrad, that's your grad school, and you pretty much get a discount on your PT school, since your scholarship still applies to that first year of grad school.
Needed that discount.
Were you accepted into the 3+3?
No, because my SAT scores were kind of low for their liking, even though they accepted like a lot of people. But that just gave me more of a time to decide like where to go to school and all that stuff. Because as you know, like with the student debt that we kind of face, like you got to be a little bit smarter with where you decide to go to school.
Yeah, and I think that was like one of the things that's not talked about when I didn't even look at prices of school when applying to PT school. It was more so where can I get in?
Honestly,
later.
I was like, all right, whose requirements like I fall into, like, and then just applying at that point, it just like and so even then I realized that not everyone has like a interview process. It was more like their application and their score your application. I was like, this is tough.
Yeah.
Actually, I was like, if I don't get into PT school, like I got to pay the student debt somehow, so I might as well just say, forget it, try to get in somewhere, and that's a better chance for me to pay this off. At least doing something that I like to do, because at some point I still have to pay off that undergrad debt, and if I wanted to go back, that would have been more grad school debt. So I tried to just knock it all out at once. And then I'm going to be paying the student debt. I might as well enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah, where for me, like I didn't even like debt and price of school didn't even come into my mind. Like once I was just like, I'm just trying to get in.
Yeah. Although the one downside, because I want to get out of New Jersey so bad, if I did apply to a state, it really isn't. But living there my entire life, going to school there, like you want something different. Although I don't know how much different Connecticut is from New Jersey.
Not much different. It's 2 states away. That's the only difference.
Besides that,
it's just like more of a relevant state than New Jersey.
Yeah, I just needed something to get me out of like the state just for a little bit.
So take us through, what did you study in undergrad then?
So Seton Hall doesn't have an exercise science program, so I studied biology, which that was kind of a tough undergrad major in general. A lot of hours spent studying, a lot of hours like just talking with like classmates on like what we just learned in class.
So when you took your biology, first off, what did you take any type of exercise science, like electives or anything like that? They didn't have that at all.
We didn't have it at all at Seton Hall.
Damn. So when you had your outpatient, I guess like goals and studying biology, how did that combine with the two? And then how did that lead into the first semester of PT school? Because that's straight outpatient.
Yeah, anatomy, that was like the easiest thing for me. It was just more so learning like the exercise side of the applied anatomy, like applying it to exercises. That was like the more challenging part for me. So knowing like what muscle groups you're trying to work on and why, the reason and all that stuff, that was, for me, that was the most challenging part in outpatient. But like, since I had like a sports background, you kind of tend to tap into that a little bit more. So it wasn't as foreign to me, but still, that was my biggest struggle.
Yeah. Also, want to piggyback off just overall, how did you feel starting PT school? Like that first semester, first year? Like what type of emotions were you going through?
Ooh, this is a long one because I kind of forgot those emotions. Not gonna lie.
You was just like
Purposely.
just tuck it away. Like
Purposely.
Yeah. Honestly, I felt like, all right, I know like it was gonna suck. Like everyone knew PT school was gonna suck. So I was like, let me just make the best out of this, whatever. And so like I think in our first semester, since like it was all like anatomy, like muscles, which I think I've been learning for the past however many years. That was like my third time learning it. It wasn't as bad. It was more so to learn like the biomechanics and stuff like that, where I had to spend a little bit more time on that. But it wasn't like such a huge, honestly, it wasn't that much of a huge change from undergrad to graduate school. It was more so in that second semester when things started like getting turned up, where I was just like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to spend a lot more time like studying, doing tutorial and all that stuff, because that was just foreign to me. And like I knew a lot of like neuro stuff beforehand, but they just took it up a gear.
Yeah, so that next semester so our school transfers from outpatient to start, then you go to your neuroanatomy, your neuro semester, then you go to the cardiopulmonary semester, then you go back to ortho to learn more advanced stuff. And then you have what was it, the billing and insurance semester.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
kind
and
of break it up into different settings almost. So it's tough if you like one setting and you don't like another. But I feel like you had a pretty unique one, is you liked acute care and you liked ortho, where my house was just ortho. So when we got to that neuro and acute care, I was like, damn, this is a full year of me not liking school right now.
Wait, hold on. We got to bring this back. Guys, I have to tell you about Jair.
oh my god,
So
please
for
don't do
people
me.
that don't know, me and Jair we lived in the same house with three others. So there's 5 PT students in one house
In the same class.
in the same class. We go to everything together. The first semester, the first couple weeks, this man Jair did everything by him. Wait, let me finish.
I was gonna say, I was an asshole that semester. I'm not gonna lie, I was an asshole.
But look,
Still are.
he studies by himself. Look, he had so mind you, the rest of the house, we're in a study room.
Come on,
And
man.
Jair comes in with a big stack of papers and just starts going through it. We're getting ready for our first test, everything like that. And we look at, so our other roommate, Dustin, looks at this man. Like, what is that? Oh, it's a study guide. None of the rest of us has a study guide. We're just out here blind, just trying to figure it out. This Jair he's like, yep, it's a study guide, puts his headphones back in and just starts studying. Dustin looks at this man and says, Jair, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go print out 4 more of those. You're gonna give it to the rest of us. Like, that is not fair. How you're gonna walk in and just start studying with a study guide and not let anyone else know. So we had to real quick like try to teach this man. This is a team game right here. If one of us is gonna succeed, we all gotta succeed.
But see, here's the problem though, is I can't even fault Jair because that's who he is. In the sense that another girl was struggling. She said, hey, can I get the anatomy origin insertions of all the muscles? He said, no. So I made this. Why would I give it to you? I'm like, damn, you just met her.
But I was the type of person like I was like, if I don't know you too well yet, I'm not gonna be like that outgoing yet. But like obviously now like it's different. Like in third, fourth semester, like if I got something, I was like, you guys need this shit.
Yeah, that's how it was so just going through orientation at Sacred Heart, they kind of beat it into us. It's like, all right, it's a team game. Like, you have to talk to each other. We have to work together. And so off rip, I was like, perfect. That's what I do best.
Oh man. And Jair said in one ear and out the other. He said, I'm doing it myself.
Yeah.
But then again, there was also a good amount of people that were like that anyway in our class. So
it
just happened, y'all my friends at the point.
This guy, yeah. I felt like I was cool enough with everyone. I was just like, so how are you guys studying? What are you guys looking at? I was just picking everybody's brains, especially we were all at this point, we was all in like the building at some point just studying. So I was like, all right, let me just go over here, say hi, and see what other people are studying, looking at, because especially that first semester or the start of each semester, you're like, everything is so different. Mm-hmm. Like, how do we put this all together?
Yeah. But so I want to actually get in more about your story into how you got into school, because I feel like there's a program that you told us about that helped you kind of get into school. So I want you to talk a little bit about that program and what it meant for you and how it kind of shaped you to be like a better student and then just a better, I would say, man as now as you're working as a PT.
Yeah, so my pediatrician, who he's Black, we actually still keep in contact very often. But he was a Kappa Alpha Psi. For those who don't know, that's a Black fraternity. And what they had was a mentoring program for a lot of Black Hispanics. Actually, it was anyone that he wanted to join, but that was who was more geared towards, just because that's who the fraternity is like based off of. And I started in that mentoring program my freshman year of high school, and it was just a bunch of brothers from the fraternity just talking about like different things you need to know in life. Like we talked about finance, we talked about getting into college, we talked about what to do when like you're at a party, whatever. Like it was like, to be quite honest, it was like heart to heart talking and all that stuff. Because some of that stuff we don't get to talk about, especially if your parents didn't go to college or whatever. So they kind of helped bridge the gap for us. And my pediatrician, he was like, since he was like a huge influence on my life. He was actually the main reason like I wanted to get into healthcare, just because it's not that often you have representation like someone Black or Hispanic or whatever in healthcare. So seeing him having an impact on me as a child, wanted to continue like feeling that same impact on someone else, because you just feel more comfortable around like the people that look just like you. So just that familiarity, that just makes the whole treatment care and care that you're providing even better. So that mentoring program really helped me like kind of decide, okay, I do want to go to school to do something in healthcare related. Obviously I chose physical therapy, but it also taught me like how to like start looking at finances, start being presentable, how to do interviews and stuff like that. So it was probably the most beneficial thing I've ever had in my life, being part of that.
Was this a high school or a college program?
High school.
When did it start for you? Like what age or what grade? And then
Yeah, it's actually it was a middle and high school, so you can start up as low as sixth grade. But everyone usually starts in around that high school range, just because you're going to be able to more absorb. You're able to absorb more information at that point in time. It's not to say that those sixth graders can't, but it's going to be more relevant to you since you're going to be starting at a college process, and it's going to be on your own like relatively soon. So that's when they see a lot of people like joining the program.
And how did you take that knowledge that you learned from there into college and into PT school, and I guess into your clinicals and practice now? So what were like some of the takeaways that you have?
One of the major takeaways, and I still struggle with this, is always have a budget. That was like one of the first things they kind of ingrained to us, because like, especially young, you don't really understand like how to budget yourself. So like you'll be tapped out of money, and they're just trying to teach us like that kind of side. They also kind of taught us like, hey, like you're Black. The world typically is not on your side. So they kind of taught me to like for lack of better words, like try to be around people that are like-minded like you, like no matter what they are, like race, just because a lot of people are not looking out for the best in you. So just trying to build like some sort of family, like no matter where it is. That was like one of the biggest things they kind of taught me is family is everything. Whether blood or like your friends or something like that, always have someone like near you that could like defend for you or like back you up in case something goes wrong.
Yeah, that's an important lesson. I know for some of us during, especially the pandemic, was it 2 years ago, where it was a little more confined. Every time you woke up and look at Instagram, it was a little bit more of some serious stuff you didn't want to see. So I know we got the four of us, between us three, and then our other classmate John gave a presentation on what it was like to be, I would say, like be a Black kid in America, what it was like. So how's that for you in terms of what you learned through your organization and then giving that presentation? Like, do you feel like you had that family in PT school? Do you feel like you were around people in your best interest?
Oh, 100%. Like what Pat was saying, like being like having someone's best interest is being willing to share stuff with other people so that everyone succeeds. So having you guys like especially like get that out of me early on, that was probably one that helped me get out in PT school, because sharing is caring. Like if you share with someone or you help someone out, like not to say like you want something in return, but you draw the best out of everyone when you do that.
And yeah, just for those of you that don't know, we gave a presentation to the rest of our class of kind of our experiences and what we've been through, what it was like to be a Black student in a higher learning education environment, something like a doctorate program where there's not many people that look like you. So there was about I think there was just 4 of us. And so I thought it was cool that we were able to give our experiences, and Jair shared some pretty cool stories about how he was able to overcome those things and go through life kind of succeeding at different aspects. So then he talked about that program, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, and also one of the things that we brought up was just having that either mentorship or a teacher that can understand what you're going through, and just so you can just talk, and how important that is, just building relationships with people that have did it. And it's refreshing to just like, okay, if someone else can make it through, like I can do it. Or if they're teachers, like they can kind of understand what's the pressure or just kind of the outlook that you're trying to navigate.
100%. Yeah, we had some good teachers, I would say, because for a while I don't think I had a Black teacher since like high school. So it was like all throughout college I did not have a single Black teacher that I could think of. So sometimes you could feel the divide in some of the classes where there were sometimes I could tell in the way that I was talked to it wasn't quite the same. And then we got to PT school. I felt like our school did a good job of listening to what we had to say, understanding, even if they didn't know what was going on. It was like, hey, I'm here to listen. Like I give a shout out to Kristen Schweitzer, because one of the times she was just like, hey, I'm just here to talk. I'm here to listen if you want to talk about stuff that's going on in the pandemic. And she was my tutorial leader at the time.
Yeah, and just giving us the opportunity and the space to share is really important. Even when we gave the little talk presentation, whatever you want to call it, it's like even some of the teachers, like I never thought about it like that way, or just giving that experience just open them up to something else. So that's what it's all about. Just like we as individuals just trying to share with one another and trying to connect with one another and see where we're coming from.
Yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool. They gave us that space to talk. They listened. They actually wanted to learn, and it was crazy for me because my whole life I always thought like teachers teach us and they know most of the stuff. But it was like now they were humble enough to say, I'm however old I am, I'm going to listen to these 24-year-olds talk about their experience because it's something I have no clue on. And I thought that was pretty dope from our teachers, and even just like the other classmates. That was like packed from the third years or second years to the first years, and it was just, I thought we had a pretty good environment in our class and our program. But so Jair, transitioning now into acute care, what are some things that you're looking for? So why you picked acute care? What are the things that you're hoping to accomplish?
Definitely want to get better at like, just overall evaluation skills, in a sense. Like I think in outpatient we kind of focus on a little bit on like the nitty gritty stuff like that, where instead like in acute care, like you don't have time to focus on every single muscle. You got to look at like their overall function. That was kind of one thing I think I got away from outpatient, just looking at like, okay, how like are they able to just move around in general, like not testing like specific muscles or anything like that, and just trying to figure out ways to make sure like people are like able to just move, because that's how most people that walk in outpatient that come in your clinic, like they're able to move, like walk around like fairly well, whatever. Like you may notice like antalgic gait if someone has like a lower extremity injury, like stuff along those lines, but you typically don't see like those major like red flags or anything like that, like in acute care. So I want to get better at seeing just those red flags in general, because at the end of the day, like I still have a passion to be an outpatient, but I think there's certain things that for me, acute care will probably make me identify more red flags better, because you never, once you see like those red flags like early on, you'll never forget them. And so once you get like that patient in outpatient or whatever, and you start seeing stuff that don't add up, you're like, hold on, I need to make a phone call or do something and tell a patient like, I don't think you're fit for PT right now because I'm seeing this, this, and this. I will refer you to someone else to make sure you get the best care.
Yeah, been there before where the math ain't mathing, and I'm like, damn, I have no clue what I'm about to do with you right now. I was like, let me just refer out. And
Yeah.
I had those red flags before.
We all had them a few times, but at the end of the day, trust your gut feeling. And you tend to do that a little bit more in acute care just because you don't have time to make like quick decisions. You got to go with your gut, and whatever happens afterwards happens, obviously. But like at the end of the day, in acute care, you're dealing with patients' lives. Like to say that we don't, because I heard people saying like PTs don't save people's lives. We really do, making sure like they're safe, they don't fall or anything like that. So at the end of the day, you are saving people's lives when you are doing what you're doing.
Yeah, especially in acute care. It's like, I feel like that's your goal, is to get them to evaluate if they're even safe to go home or it's safe to transfer to another level. It's like like the doctors and everyone's relying on your expertise to let them know where this patient is physically. And you do spend quite a bit of time like with them, talking to them, working with their social worker or anything, just to know what situation that they have at home, and can they go back to that safely.
Yeah. And so for the acute care setting, for those that aren't quite as familiar, it's a lot more of a team aspect. So like you have the doctor that comes in that is generally overseer of everything. But you have speech, you have OT, you have PT, and everyone, and social workers. So everyone kind of relies on each other.
And nurses, and
nurses. There's the list is endless. But then you get down to, is this person safe enough to go home? And so you have to have a pretty good knowledge on what their home setup is like who's there with them, what their abilities are now, how much you have to help them now. And it's crazy because you see some people at the lowest of the low, and then you can see them once you can discharge them home, like just the pure joy on some people's faces. I know from my experience, I had a lady that I had to do everything for her when it came to walking. And she's like, no, I can go home. We had to sit there for 30 to 45 minutes and convince this lady that she was not safe enough to go home. Because then on the hospital's end, if the person comes back, that's a charge on them. So it's like, it's a heavy burden sometimes. So I think PTs in acute care got a tough going sometimes.
Yeah, and I feel like it's oversimplified into PTs are just here to walk you down the hallway.
Yeah. No. When I was doing my shadowing, I was like, oh, this is easy. All I have to do is walk them. But then when it got to like, hey, do your session, my clinical instructor said, so what did they teach you guys in school? I didn't know what I was supposed to do during that session. It's like, do I exercise them? Do I just walk?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because like doing before the day starts, like doing their chart review and going through their just their numbers, just with heart rate, blood pressure, all the
lab values,
all those lab values. Yeah. Then you have to realize, even before you leave the computer, you have to make a picture in your head of what this person looks like, in the sense of like, all right, how is this session going to go?
Yeah.
And for me, being terrible with numbers, and just trying to remember lab values, that was like the toughest part. So and then getting to the patient's room, and it being totally different.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So like they may have been fine at 8 o'clock, but now it's 10 and they're crashing, whatever. They're just not feeling well, super irritable, and they just can't or just don't want to move. And now you have to make it like, what can we do this session? Like, what do you need the most, and then how can we finesse this situation where it works out for the both of us?
And that's the thing. It's like I saw some really cool stories though in the hospital where it was like, I went to a patient's room and I saw everything that they had. They had like this many liters of oxygen. They had this many stairs. I was like, there's no shot this person's going home today. And then they all of a sudden were the complete opposite of what I expected. I was like, damn. So it was like they were able to move throughout the hall. I didn't have to touch them at all. And then I've had the complete opposite where I was like, oh, bet this is going to be an easy one. And I come in, I was like, this person doesn't speak English. And I was like, I missed that note. So
my God.
Translator as an iPad. I was like, and then they just had a stroke and can't speak English. So I was like, this was way more than I thought it was going to be.
You just unlocked the memory in my brain from something like that.
Yeah.
I ended up finding out that I had a patient with bilateral amputations, barely spoke English. Oh, in addition, our Barnes Jewish Hospital, because it was a pandemic and like the hospital was like pretty overwhelmed, they started having 2 patients to a room. So at first I went to the other person's side of the room, another patient's side of the room, just like check them out. And I looked at their wristband, I was like, crap, this is not the person I'm supposed to see.
Oh.
Thank God I didn't treat them or anything like that, because that would have been a whole nother story. So I went to the right side of the room and I saw this. I'm like, all right, so what am I going to do? Because obviously this person is not safe for work, going home. They could barely get out of bed. Like they were like max assistance for just sitting at the edge of bed. And this was like midway through my clinical. So like I was by myself at this point, and I was just like, what do I do with this patient right now who has pretty much no use of their legs and very deconditioned, all these longitudes coming out of them, and it's pretty much like a fake it till you make it and make sure the patient's safe as possible type of thing.
But you got the education to at least, I say fake it, an educated fake it.
Yeah, because it's
educated
I
guess.
feel like it's tough because it's like there's no strict protocol of how you're supposed to go through a session, but you just have to like rely on the information that you have been taught
and the ones that you chart reviewed.
Yeah, even though like it may not feel like you're prepared in the moment, or you feel like you don't know what's going on, but it's like there's like a small little innate feeling. All right, this is based on what I do know.
Yeah.
Like, all right, this is how I feel I should navigate this space.
I will say I had a couple experiences where I knew acute care wasn't for me. This was like my first patient ever that my CI was like, all right, you're cool going by yourself. I trust you. The rapid response team was called like 30 minutes later. And that was my patient that almost died in the thing. I was like, how did this even happen?
Yeah.
Pretty much after surgery, lots of fluid was lost. So I actually stood up. There was more fluid lost.
Yeah, that's tough.
It was a lot of lightheadedness, and it was me and another nursing student. And I looked at her for help, and she looked at me for help. I was like, oh, I don't like that. Her preceptor came in and was like, hey, does anyone need any help in here? Are we all good? Just checking in, making my rounds. I was like, please help me. Rapid response came in, and then I had to go to lunch as if nothing happened. I was like, this is not my speed. I was like, this is a very heavy situation.
Yeah.
So actually, what's one takeaway from being in acute care that you would give to students in their rotations? Jair, go ahead. We'll let you start.
Honestly, the biggest thing for me is trust your gut feeling. There's been plenty of times where I'm getting a patient, I've worked with them for a few times. I'm like, something about this transfer or like something about them walking just didn't feel right. And I was like, you know what, we're just going to stop it right now. I know you can do more, but we're just going to stop right now. And because of that, usually like they wouldn't, like I had patients that would code on me, but like it wouldn't happen until later in the day. And my CI would usually say like, if something like that happens, like usually that's a sign that you're doing a little too much or something just feels off. So at the end of the day, if trust your gut feeling with everything, if something doesn't feel right, stop exercise, and sit them back down and just talk with the nurses. And I probably say that's also the biggest thing too, is just talking to like whoever else is in there. Like acute care really is a team game. So, and that's kind of like also like drew me into acute care more, is like you get to talk with SLPs, OTs, nurses, MDs, to get these patients out of the hospital. And I felt like in outpatient, like you didn't really have as much of a team aspect there. So just talking with different people, bouncing ideas off of each other, like that was like, that's the best way for me to learn anyway, even though like, as we were saying earlier, like I wasn't the greatest when I first came into PT school, but team collaboration is the best way to go in acute care, like talking to everyone, your healthcare team.
Look at that. Life came full circle for Jair. You went from being an individual to saying, you know what, I thrive better in a team situation. Damn, look at that.
Tyler, you have a takeaway from acute care?
I would say it was a humbling experience because like you said, in outpatient, you're not really like working on a team. It's like you and the patient. If you're in a good setting, it's just you and one person. So I knew a lot of individual aspects of like, what can I give to this person? But I think it's also helped me in acute care because I would go to people's rooms and know that like what I had to offer for them could be something that like made their day. So like it wasn't always about me and what I could provide, but it's like kind of a team situation, like you said in there. It's like they will give me stuff that I can learn and I can learn from them and give them some more stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they always I feel like even the toughest of patients made my day because I was like, they're going through something that I can't even understand. And they're still willing to listen to me and like put forth the effort to get better. So I think that also helped me going back to now starting as an outpatient PT. Because like some things are just I can't treat by myself. Whereas like I need like an endocrinologist, I need like the MD, I need somebody else to help me, an acupuncturist, to make sure that we get like a holistic view, so that way someone can get better. It's not always just going to be whatever treatment I can give them.
Yeah, and I think for any students going through or shadowing or working in acute care, it's like the appreciation that I got working with patients in acute care, and then seeing that transition to now working in outpatient. It's like those patients that's coming to see you in outpatient has been through a lot, and while they were in the hospital, like they had to. Some of them had to relearn how to walk, and now they're coming to see you. So it's like it's pretty traumatizing. It's a very vulnerable state, and it's like, all right, now you have to take that in consideration, and then like they have been through a lot to even come see you in outpatient. So like just be appreciative of that, and then just try to make that connection where you're building that rapport.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think problems when you just look at outpatient, you're just like, all right, you're coming to me like, let's get this done, stop being lazy. But I think when you go to the acute care now, you're like, oh, so you had to spend nights in the hospital, where it was like they were running tests nights multiple times. And it was like the amount of people now that I've had in outpatient where it's like, oh, I had cancer at one point. And you're like, damn, if you think of when I've seen people who have had cancer in the hospital, it's like, it's a serious, like, you're constantly fatigued, constantly getting woken up. You feel like just like low energy. So it's I think a good experience to have. I didn't want to have it because I didn't like hospitals, but I thought that was a good way of just humbling me. Like, listen, there's a lot more to this process than just seeing the final product at outpatient.
And then also the next topic I want to tackle is just like that transition of finding a job. And then once you find that job, all right, how do you know this job is not for me? And that transition's like, all right, I need to start looking for a job, because ultimately, Jair, you went through that. Like, you started somewhere and you're excited to start, and then it's like, what happened for you? Kind of what if someone else is going through that? Like, what type of advice would you give them?
So for me, since I had my interview in New Jersey, because I was still in New Jersey taking my getting ready for my boards. So I interviewed at a company, and there were some red flags that I just ignored because I'm a new grad. Like, I wanted to get a job like as soon as possible so I could start paying off the loans. But there were some like red flags that like I saw and I kind of ignored. Like, more so when I got my job offer, and like I started talking like the reps and all that stuff, like there was like no room for negotiation with like salaries or anything like that. Like, I tried talking to them about it. They're like, no, that's like the flat rate or whatever. I was like, and we really didn't, like, we talked about like negotiating and all that stuff, like interviews and like school, but like this is the first one I've ever had. So I was just like, I'll just take whatever. So that was the first thing I probably recommend, is don't take the first job that you're offered. Just wait around, like see what else is out there. For me, like I wanted a job so like I could like get my apartment, all that stuff, all that situated, and I'll figure it out later. That was like my mindset, and I wish I like could redo that all over again. But as like I was sort of like, I would say also the big thing too is like try to come to the clinic unannounced. Cause like I went to the clinic and they expected me to be there. So they kept everything uptight and everything. And even then I saw like some things I was like, something seems off about this clinic. So like if you can, like if you're looking at like an outpatient job, try to go there unannounced and just scope it out, see like how they are, like without knowing like there's a new hiree or someone like that coming in. And but led me to believe like this was like not the job for me was first off during my orientation, I was just put into a room by myself and like no one was like checking in on me to like go over the orientation process. Within like, I'll probably say like 3 or 4 weeks, I had a full caseload. And normally you're supposed to build up your caseload over like 3 to 4 months, not a month. So I was already seeing like a lot of people and I was like, I'm not ready to do this. Like, can I get a step back? Like, I'm still new grad. Like I still like in a little bit in that student mindset. And pretty much it fell on deaf ears. Like no one was like willing to listen to me about my concerns. So I was like, okay, this is not right for me. I ended up calling Kristen to talk about it. And Kristen was like, after I was telling her everything that was going on, she was like, I would start finding a new job.
Kristen's dope.
Yeah. So I started applying to jobs. At first I was applying to like just outpatient and inpatient jobs in general. And as I started like looking at more and more of the outpatient jobs, I kind of found more and more of the same things. And that's kind of what you get with like those big chain PT clinics. Like really no ramp up time, no mentorship, even though they say they promise mentorship. I met with my clinic director to talk about my caseloads twice in the 5 months I've been here. And it was more so because I wasn't meeting their numbers because I had patients after the initial eval, they would go to a clinic that was closer to them, or they would just go to another therapist or whatever. It was more so like me not meeting numbers, instead like talking to me about like, hey, how you doing with like this particular like region for your assessments or your treatments. It was more so like very numbers heavy, and I just felt like I didn't come into PT like, yeah, I want to get people better and all stuff. I want to keep like, it's a business first and foremost. But like as a new grad, like you guys understand, like there's gonna be a little bit of a give and take with us and like our numbers and all that stuff for like the first year. So when they were like very numbers heavy on me early on, I knew like that was a red flag for me because I'm just, lack of better terms, a puppet for them to get as many units, bill as much care as I could get.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough thing. I feel like with the bigger chain PTs, it is a business, but yeah, at the end of the day, if you're a new grad student, you got to give me some leeway every once in a while. So yeah, that I can see why it would be a pretty big turnoff for you.
Yeah, and then also like, because you normally, I think you guys went through this process too. Like you got to get credentialed to see like different insurances.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was seeing like a lot of these insurances without being credentialed, and I was like, this is not right. Like, I shouldn't be seeing like all these different insurance companies when I'm not credentialed yet. So I was just, something just told me like it was off. Like again, that goes back to your gut feeling. Like my gut was telling me like something seems off about working here, and 9 times out of 10, your gut is usually right.
Yeah. And then how was that process of interviewing and finding a new position somewhere else?
Yeah. So a lot of the outpatient jobs out here in Arizona, like they pretty much have the same rate, similar productivities. And like, as I started talking to like, because I've ended up having friends that play volleyball that were PTs, they kind of told me like how things were out here. I was like, yeah, that does not sound like my cup of tea or whatever, like how they were, lack of better words, there were mills, PT mills, where you just are there to pump out as many patients as you can. That's why I started looking more towards inpatient side, because I knew like you can't really do that in inpatient. And so I had a few inpatient interviews, which most of them went pretty well. There was only one where I was just like a little on the nervous side, because like, again, like I really hadn't had a ton of like experience like interviewing and stuff like that. So they could tell I was a little nervous. But for the most part, all of them went pretty well. It was just at this point, like they needed someone more experienced because they were high level trauma centers. So 2 hospitals I applied to, they were level 1 and they were level 1 trauma centers. So that's like the most emergent, like they see the craziest stuff there. Whereas the job I have right now is a level 3 trauma center. So their main job is to just stabilize you and then ship you out to another hospital that can better manage your care. And because of that, they really couldn't take in a new grad at the time, just because they need someone to just go like with the higher complexities. So that was like kind of like demoralizing to me because I was like, am I not good enough? Because like I'm getting these interviews, but like they keep saying like I need new experience, more experience. But you just keep applying, and hospital will take a chance on you, and they will know like, hey, you just need a little bit more coaching since you are a new grad. But if they're willing to work with you, like usually that means like they're a good fit for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think interesting one for that I want to know about. What was it like when you told your job, like, hey, I'm out? What was that like?
That's funny because so for my job, I was actually supposed to move to a different clinic, which is going to be like 30 to 45 minutes away from where I live, which I tried very hard to not go, like move out there if I was going to stay at this job, but there was like no convincing them. And so I had to, this is how it went down. I had an interview on Wednesday with this hospital I have my job at now. And I had applied to 2 other hospitals in the same hospital system. So they already knew me at this point. And the interview was more like a formality because like they were the other 2 hospitals, they had really good things to say about me. They just couldn't take a new grad at this point in time. So the people that I was interviewing with, they were saying like, oh, like this is how I see you fitting in with us. This is like how we are as like leaders, as like your supervisor, like just tell me stuff about that. It wasn't really as much like the standard interview questions, like tell me about a time where you struggled with this, this, and that. So it felt like just a general conversation, like we were like legit, we were co-workers. And the next day, they gave me a job offer just because I already knew like this, the hospital system in general. And like I gave myself a little bit of time to think about this a little bit more. But on Friday, that's when I met with my soon-to-be new clinic director, like my outpatient job, and they were just telling me like all the stuff where I had to travel like an hour for like job before the clinic opens up and all this stuff. And I was just like, I was just saying to myself like, you don't really care about like my personal life or anything like that. So over the weekend, I continued thinking about it, and on Monday, I accepted the job offer at the hospital, and told my clinic director, my would-be clinic director at the new clinic I was going to about it, and they were like, "Oh crap, really? You're leaving?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm putting my 3 weeks notice in." And yeah, and they almost weren't phased in a sense because like the company I was at, they have a pretty high turnover rate, so they're like, "Hey, it's whatever." And at that point, that's when I realized that was like a real red flag because there's like no like retention rate between therapists and all that. If people are leaving in and out, like after I left after 5 months, and people are leaving after a year or two. So like if you're not able to keep like your employees, then is that really a good company?
Right.
Like, yeah, they didn't offer like no counter negotiation, like nothing like that, anything like that to try and make me stay. So I was like, yep, I knew that at that point definitely was not the company to work for.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's one of those tough conversations. I was like, I don't know how it started or how people go through them. Not that I need to have it now, but I was like, that's just an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, I have this opportunity that suits me better. How do I have this conversation with someone and still end on good terms? And like still, because this field is so small, it's like I've known people from different areas just randomly off of like one time I met them.
Yeah.
So it was like ending on a good note. That's a hard thing to do sometimes. And it's like, this company just wasn't right for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pretty much told him like, yeah, this isn't right for me. Just going a different route. And my clinic director, he was like understanding like, yeah, I understand like outpatient is like, outpatient's tough. But he looked at it more like the business aspect instead of like making sure like I was okay as a therapist and all that stuff. Like it was very like business oriented instead of like, was there anything that we could have done like made you not, that's how it was, like just strictly business.
Damn, that's cold.
Yeah.
That's cold. But thanks, Jair, for wrapping up with us and kind of giving your story. I know you had a couple of things on there and making some new memories now. So going into that new adventure, so that's got to be exciting for you.
Oh yeah.
This week.
When do you start?
I start February 7th, so next Monday.
Damn.
Next Monday. All right. So you got
chilling.
So you got some time to reevaluate. look
Yeah.
at some lab values, familiarize yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I have to go over a lot of vestibular because I'm going to get a lot of training like the emergency department, and you see a lot of vestibular stuff in the ED. So I had to get myself familiar with that real quick. But of course, I'm going to get training on all that stuff. So
yeah, look, I'm excited for your new endeavor.
Yeah,
Sure.
honestly, I hope you don't call me in 5 months and tell me the same thing. I hope you're calling me, telling me with tears of joy how much you love acute care.
you already know I do.
Make John of Ours proud. Jair, this man had the award for, was it cardiac
Cardiopulmonary.
research?
Yeah.
Cardiopulmonary research, getting to use it now. So Jair's like that when it comes to acute care.
Yeah, you remember I wore scrubs to like a mock lab in school in third semester?
You wore scrubs for fun. That's on you. You remember you wore scrubs for fun.
I didn't have scrubs until my clinical required.
They're comfy as hell.
All right, look.
Some
Hey,
of my sweatpants.
look,
They
you
really
got
are
it.
sweatpants.
You got it. Now you can wear it Monday through Friday.
Shit, Saturday sometimes too.
Saturdays and Sundays. I got weekend shifts.
Oh, damn.
Oh yeah, you got it. But thank you, Jair, for joining us. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
All right, until next time.
Bye.
Oh my